So what is jihad? The first jihad which is mentioned in the Holy Quran is the jihad with the Quran. So the Holy Quran is addressing Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, says, وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. With this book, strive against them with the help of this book. The great striving. So the greatest jihad of every Muslim is to strive for the victory of Islam with whatever lies in his capacity, by way of the Quranic teachings or by way of an example, beautiful example set before the people, by acting upon the Quranic teaching. This is the most wonderful jihad that one can think of, and this is Islamic jihad. Number two, the second jihad mentioned in the Holy Quran and also in Hadith is jihad against your own evil dispositions, your evil inclinations, etc., and to continue to wage a war against your bad self, which would continue to drag you to all that is satanic. And that is the jihad between light and darkness. And that jihad begins within a man individually and within a woman. By word man, I mean both man and woman. And this is a jihad in which seldom we find people genuinely and seriously involved, yet they claim at the loudest of their voices, jihad, jihad, jihad. So these are the primary two jihads which I have mentioned, which they totally ignore. The third in order comes jihad with sword. And what is that jihad? Can a fight with sword or bullets or guns be called holy, and if so, in what context? The Holy Quran is so clear on that there is no room for any ambiguity left if you read the Quran with due care and attention and honesty, of course. I have been quoting so often the fundamental verse concerning this jihad, the third type of jihad, which can be carried out with sword. By sword I mean all weapons. And this is found in a verse in Surah Al-Hajj. This is the first verse found in the Holy Quran which speaks of a permission to wage a war against those who, which those I am going to explain now. Not against those who disagree with your faith, not against those who, having heard your message, reject it, not at all. The words, when you hear, you will be surprised how they could be misinterpreted by anyone. أذن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أذن للذين يقاتلون بأنهم ظلموا وإن الله على نصرهم لقدير. أذن للذين, permission is granted to those against whom the sword is already raised. Yuqataluna, any Arab can understand the meaning. No one can fail to understand the import of this verse, because simple injunction is simple injunction expressed in simplest terms. The raising of sword, the fighting, is permitted to those against whom the swords have already been raised. First condition. بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا, despite the fact that they have not committed any crime. They have given no cause of offense to anyone. But it is not over yet. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. Verily, God has full power to help such people when they raise sword under the permission of God. Now, this is also a very significant part of this verse and also of jihad. because the scenario presented to us is that of a very weak people, so weak and apparently defenseless that any Tom, Dick and Harry begins to raise sword against them and trample upon their rights, despite the fact that they had not given anybody a genuine cause of offense. So the Holy Quran is so wonderful when it says, we are permitting you and we take the responsibility that if you use this permission, you will find God at your back. However weak you may be, when we grant permission, we are responsible that you will emerge victorious. This is exactly the promise made. Inna Allah ala nasrahim laqadir. To help them to victory is a small thing for Allah. He is capable of doing whenever He so decides. But the story of their persecution still continues, runs on. It says, Allazina ukhriju min diyarihim bighayri haqqin. Such innocent people against whom the atrocities have been committed, even to the extent they were turned out of their homes, out of their country, out of their birthplaces. Bighayri haqqin, without any right of the people who turned them out. Then the Holy Quran tells us, Illa an yakulu Rabbuna Allah. The only crime they committed was, they said, God is our Lord, the Provident. Allah Rabbuna. And this is the only claim they made which annoyed the opponents to a degree that they started committing all sort of cruelties against them, and they are not yet satiated, they are not satisfied. Having turned them out of their homes, they are still after them. Now this is in a sort of prophecy, in fact. It says, you have come to Medina, you have been turned out of your homes, but the war is not over against you. The sword will yet be raised. And this time, if they come pursuing you, we permit you to fight back. This was indeed a prophecy of what happened at Badr. And the promise of Allah was kept so beautifully. Being small in number, being weak in other respects, pitched against an army of trained soldiers, the very pick of Mecca, who were 1,000, who were mounted, who had all sorts of equipments available at that time. And this small number of 313, who also included among them some lame people, some old people, some young boys who had not yet reached maturity. And the promise is so positive, so clear. This time, let them come. This time, if they wage a war, we have permitted you. And we are capable of defeating them. So, God is with you, don't care. And then the principle of jihad is mentioned. If these ulama who cry out jihad, jihad for political ends, if they read this verse, it's impossible for them to misrepresent Islam anymore.